Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar, Business Opportunity Selection. My name is Robin Taylor and I am the Manager of Member Services here at Chief Executive Boards. Our company provides an executive peer advisory service with local boards in cities on the East Coast as well as in the Midwest, and the group gathers nationally twice a year. You can learn more about Chief Executive Boards online at chiefexecutiveboards.com. And for this webinar, if you have any questions, you can post those in the chat box, and we'll do a quick Q&A session at the end of this presentation. So let's go ahead and get started. You can hop to the next slide. There we go. I'd like to introduce our presenter, Kevin Minton. He is an author, speaker, and the owner of Chief Executive Boards, and he'll be sharing his knowledge and wisdom with us today. So at this point, Kevin, I'll turn things over to you.
Okay, thank you, Robin. Welcome, everyone. I'm glad that you could join us today. And I'm going to go ahead and just start us out with a little bit of a quote here. And that uncertainty is the only certainty there is, and knowing how to live with insecurity is the only security. So we've been living with a lot of that here over the past year and a half or so, and it's just been a sort of a volatile situation. But what's happening is we are moving away from that, and we're moving towards a new situation here as we come out of the COVID situation. And what that looks like, just to give you somewhat of a picture, is that there's been a tidal wave of pent-up demand. There's a lot of strong balance sheets out there, a lot of good available cash, both personally and in businesses as well. So the B2B climate, the B2C climate as well. There's just a lot of people that have been stuffing their bank accounts and their checking accounts, and they're ready to unleash some of this right now. And I'm even hearing this from the corporations out there, that the major corporations have very strong, healthy balance sheets, and the word is that third quarter is when they're going to really start to unleash some of this. So there's a scarcity of resources also that I'm sure most of you are feeling the pain or seeing some of this right now in both human and raw materials and logistics of even getting things to you as well. So that's not only in our businesses, but that's also prevalent when we go out as consumers to shop as well for certain things. And then also, to make matters even more accelerated here, we've got inflation that is driving up prices on most everything that we're seeing right now, and it's an unprecedented inflation rate, which we'll see here in just a moment, over the last 30 years. And so that's kind of what we're faced with at the moment. That's what we're entering as far as a situation. You heard me talk a little bit about inflation earlier, and this was just released by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, in that in the last 30 years, in a period from 1991 to 2020, the consumer price index has exceeded 4% in just 1 year. That was 2007, and it's been below 3% in 24 of the 30 years, but that could be changing. So at the end of the last month, back at the end of May, the consumer price index, or the CPI, was up to 5% on a trailing 12-month basis. So remarkably, year-over-year inflation has been less than 5%. At the end of 99% of all the months in the last 30 years. But if you'll notice that little blue circle there, in May of 2021, we hit 5% on a trailing 12 months. And so we've not seen that kind of inflation in quite a while. So we don't know if this is temporary or if this is something that's going to continue for a while. But anyway, that's kind of the lay of the land of where we are today. So what are we seeing as we start to emerge in this new era, this new situation? It was a scary, a fearful kind of a situation that we went through, or at least that's the way that it was made out to be. It wasn't necessarily fearful for some people, but for a lot of people it was. But as we start to come out from behind the curtains and we resurface again, this is kind of what we had in our rearview mirror was that, man, we don't want to go through that again for the most part in general. So now what we're starting to see are when we come up and peak out is opportunities. People and businesses are starting to spend money. And there's a mindset of, hey, let's make hay while we can and get everything that's starting to come our way. Let's not say no. Let's make sure that we're capturing everything we can capture, especially if you're an entrepreneur. That tends to be a prevalent mindset, is that, hey, we may not see this come along again. And so we need to be able to, just capture as much as we can, as fast as we can. And what that's creating is, or what we're seeing is some possible accelerated growth in our companies and our businesses ahead of us, if you aren't already experiencing it, because some of you out there probably are already seeing this. So this is, as we come into this third quarter, this is sort of what we're seeing in our windshield at the moment. Now, as we take this on, and as we come into view with this kind of a situation, I want to point out some of the typical mistakes and errors that we tend to make as we approach something like this. And the first one is we take on too much business too fast. We see it as opportunistic, and it's an opportunity that we want to just, we want to get everything that we possibly can into backlog, and we'll worry about how to solve that problem once we get to it. So, but that could be a critical error. Another error is that we don't tend to adjust our prices to accommodate the increased demand. We tend to lag sometimes on adjusting our prices, and that causes margin erosion, that causes some issues for us. And if we don't stay on top of our pricing to accommodate for that increased demand, a lot of times we're getting pushback from our clients or our customers, but we have to make those adjustments, and we have to educate our clients and customers on why we're making those adjustments, because and they know it, they see it come, and they're feeling it too. And they're adjusting their prices. So don't be afraid to make adjustments in your prices when you're feeling a pull effect on your business. And I mean that there's a demand on your business. Don't be afraid to make price adjustments to accommodate for that demand. Another mistake is that we don't tighten up on our opportunity and our client selection. We take on typically an attitude of, okay, more work is better. And that's not necessarily the case here. Sometimes we will take on clients that are bad for us. And so what I'm going to suggest is that, we continue to do business with what we call dilutive clients or dilutive customers, or we take on opportunities that can be dilutive to our business, or we keep the dilutive clients or customers in our portfolio. And so if you're not looking at your current business and how your business is evolving, one of the things I would encourage you to take a look at is, which are those clients that are your pain in the rear clients, that's, causing you troubles, that are dilutive to your average profit margin percentage. These might be customers that are coming in below your average profit margin percentage that you may want to take a hard look at, saying, all right, is there a way that we can move them towards being accretive to our profit margin, or to the way that we do business with them, that we can put them in that category that makes them worthy of doing business with. So these are just a couple of the mistakes, and some of the side effects that this causes is, when we take on too much too fast, or we keep dilutive clients, or those PIA clients, as I like to call them, this puts a stress on our business. Not only on our business, it puts a stress on us and our employees. It stresses our ability to perform for those clients, and they have a level of expectation of performance. And when you take on too much too fast, then it's going to stress your resources. It also stresses our cash flow. A lot of businesses don't realize this, but they don't track their, what I call their business velocity or their growth trajectory. And if your growth trajectory starts to exceed your net margin percentage, that can have a real devastating effect. And that's a leading cause for a lot of businesses, even big businesses, to go out of business as they grow too fast. They exceed their ability to fund the growth. And so you've got to have some things in your favor. If you start getting a growth trajectory that is beyond your net margin percentage or your ability to fund it, then you're going to run into some problems real fast. All right, what are some other side effects? Personnel overload. You start burning the candle at both ends for you and your employees. You're going to start to experience some other effects here, and it's gonna cause some burnout, some turnover. And employees are hard enough to get right now and to keep and retain, and so you got to be careful. This is a consideration that we need to take into effect, because it's just going to cause tremendous stress on your business if we start to take on too much too fast. So, what do we do? How do I avoid these missteps in what seems like an opportunistic environment? I had a client tell me the other day, said, just asked me the question, said, Kevin, I thought growth was a good thing. Well, growth is a good thing. You want to continue to grow, but you want managed, controlled growth, not out of control growth. And so let's put some perspective around this on how we should handle fueling the fire here. And so, again, you heard me mention, growth is good, but not all growth is good. Okay. You don't want to just take on anything and everything that comes your way in this kind of an environment. You can grow too fast. And if you do that, it's going to cause a tremendous negative effect on your business pretty quickly. So what we want to do is we want to have what's called controlled and selective growth. And we want to put a process in place that helps us to determine that. You heard me mention the term velocity earlier. One of the things that in this kind of an environment that you want to start to keep a handle on is tracking your growth velocity percentage versus your net margin. And your growth velocity percentage is your month over month growth percentage. All right. If you're growing at 20, 30%, but your net margin percentage is only 10%, you're going to outgrow your capability to fund this kind of growth unless you have a couple of things in place. You got to have some things in place to be able to do that. So your velocity is defined as your month over month net margin growth. Okay, your sales growth. So what you want to do is, if you have a sustained velocity that is beyond your net margin percentage, then you're going to need to have a couple of things in place. One is you're going to need to have a strong balance sheet. You're going to have some cash in reserve to be able to support it and fund it. You're going to have to another thing you might have to consider is having access to outside capital, such as a line of credit. You may have to recapitalize the business or bring in some additional investment to be able to fund the growth. You may have to adjust your terms. In other words, if you can get upfront payments, or accelerate your payment terms, or raise your prices in order to be able to fund that growth. So these are just some things that you're going to want to try to keep in mind, that if you are experiencing a growth, these are some things to keep into perspective. So what are some of the strategies when we're in this kind of an environment? One, first of all, if you find yourself in a hole, if you're taking on too much business right now, more than what you can handle, stop digging. Stop taking on additional business right now, because all you're going to do is you're going to create a situation where you cannot properly service the business, and you're going to create a bad perception among your clients. And what you want to do is you want to delight or elate your customer base. And they're not going to be elated with doing business with you if you can't properly support them. So if you find yourself already, approaching or being in a hole, just stop digging. Stop going down that path. One thing you should consider is increasing your prices. And how often should you do that? Well, as often as you need to maintain your margins. You might have discussions with your clients. One approach to do this is that if you're seeing that your raw material cost, or your labor cost, or your other costs are exceeding your prices as far as growth right now, then what you may call that a surcharge. Just, you've got your base prices, but just say, listen, for right now, we don't know how long this situation is going to last. We don't know if this is temporary or not, but we need to plug in a surcharge and have that discussion with your clients, and just tell them, say, listen, if we don't do this, we're not going to be able to support you the way that you want to be supported. So in order for us to be able to accommodate being able to support you, we have to do this, and you have to have those discussions with your clients. Another thing you can do is tighten up your payment terms. If you're at net 30, net 45, net 60, consider tightening up your payment terms and negotiating that with your clients. Or better yet, if you can get them to work with you on prepayments. In other words, funding your service up front. That's going to create some cash flow for you to be able to accommodate the growth that you're on. Finally, if you've got these PIA or pain in the rear clients, you might want to consider firing a couple of them, or doing something that moves them from a pain to work with to more accommodating to work with. Or if they are dilutive to your net margin, your average net margin, then increasing the prices, getting the margins up to where it becomes at least even with your average net margin, if not accretive to your net margin. And then this is a possible training opportunity to get those clients or customers to work with you on your terms. So you can start to have some of those discussions with your clients. Those are some of the strategies that you can start to implement. And there's a couple more. And so sometimes the best deals that you make are the ones that you actually say no to. All right. Let somebody else take those bottom of the barrel opportunities, those dilutive opportunities, those PIA customer opportunities, and let them deal with those. And if you have that luxury, say no. This is just, it's not a good fit. It's not a good fit with our company. We're not going to be able to support you properly. We're not going to be able to give you the kind of service that you are accommodating to, that you're used to. And so we're just going to have to say no. And that's a hard thing for most entrepreneurs or business owners to do, is to actually say no. But it's actually some of the best deals you'll actually make. Another strategy is, and a lot of businesses don't have this in place, is implement what's called a stringent opportunity or client selection process. And I'm going to give you a tool here in just a moment. I'm going to walk you through that, of what that looks like. When we get into this kind of an environment, if you are now this is primarily for a strategic sale, not for tactical sales. Okay. So as you walk through a sell process with a strategic client, you want to make sure that that client, as you're moving through the buying cycle, as you're moving forward, that they have commitment along with you. As you make a commitment, they make commitments along the way. All right. They have skin in the game throughout the process, because the moment they stop having skin in the game or they stop making commitments, then you're losing them, or they're not as committed to this as you are. And so that's where you need to back up and say, wait a minute, let's go back to the discussion process here and see, have we fully educated you guys enough to where you're committed to moving forward with us in the buy cycle? So these are just some strategies that you might want to consider implementing. I'm not saying this is everything. These are just some things that might be helpful to you. So what I want to introduce to you is a simple, logical framework for quickly being able to decide whether to pursue or decline opportunities. Now, I know this is difficult to read on your screen, so I'm going to break it down. I'm going to blow it up for you. And I call this a business opportunity selection analysis. And if you are in a strategic sale situation, then you're going to want some sort of a process to help you logically decide whether this is a good client or a bad client to work with, or a good opportunity or a bad opportunity to work with. And so some of the key components of this business opportunity selection analysis is going to include information about the client, a description of the opportunity, what's their budget, what's their time frame, when do they, as we work through the buying cycle here, what kind of time frame do we have to work with? Is it something that we can work with? Now, I'm not going to read through all of these, but these are the key components of a selection analysis. And so what I'm going to start to do is to break this down for you and go through some of the key components. And again, this is being recorded. You can go back and watch it if you want. The document that I'm showing to you here is a document that we will make available to you. You can take it and modify it to suit your needs if you wish. But this is just something that we thought might be helpful to you. Now, a note, again, this is for strategic opportunities, not transactional sales, because typically transactional sales move way too quick for this kind of a decision-making process. All right. So let's start to break it down. At the very top, this is what we're going to look at. You'll notice at the top here on the left-hand side, there's an opportunity number. And the way I typically do this is I'll give it 4 numbers at the beginning, 0054. So this is opportunity number 54 in the year 2021. All right. And the reason why I do this is that I would keep a log of these opportunities, opportunity number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. And so if you ever need to go back and reference it, then you've got a log of the opportunities and how you came to a decision with this client. Because if you ever get another opportunity with the same client that maybe you turned down, you may be able to make the decision even faster that, hey, this is a client that for some reason or another, we were not able to work with them. So you're going to start to include, the client information in there, such as the company name, the opportunity name, where it's located, and so forth. But we'll get down to the opportunity itself on the left-hand side. We have some qualitative and or quantitative criteria. So first of all, you can answer some general questions here. Is the value worth the effort? Again, that's a bit subjective, but yes or no. Do you feel like we can deliver on this opportunity? Yes or no? Now, you'll notice there's a couple of answers in here that are shown in red with a pink background. That's where we've said no. And so, for instance, do we have the resources? No. Do we have a competitive advantage? No. And so those are red flags. Those are red flags to tell you that, hey, this may not be an opportunity that we want to pursue. As you move down under the budget, notice it says the opportunity value. How big is it? What's the size of the opportunity? Is their budget realistic? Okay, again, it's kind of subjective, and you're going to kind of know, is it, are they being realistic with their budgetary numbers? And if you don't know, ask the question, what is their budget? You need to be asking those kind of questions in your selection process, in your discovery. Is it approved? If the budget is not approved, then you're going to want to dig a little bit deeper in understanding, okay, who's going to decide if this budget is approved? When is it going to be approved? And if it is approved, can we deliver upon it? So again, now we move down into the time frame. You want to be able to make sure that you can accommodate the time frame of the actual bids or the opportunities that you're going to be bidding upon. So, can you meet these dates? If you can't meet the dates, then there's no use in you even bidding upon it, or you trying to propose it, or trying to even go after this work. Save your time. Your time is your most valuable commodity. Save your time. Go focus on something else that you can capture. You'll notice there's a couple of questions at the bottom of the time frame there. One is there client urgency? If there's client urgency, that could create a competitive situation for you that gives you somewhat of a benefit in your negotiation. If they have an urgent need, that may be an opportunity for you. Okay. What stage of the buying cycle are they in? Are they already in the evaluation and decision-making mode? If they are, you may be too late to the game. Somebody may have already gotten ahead of you in the sales cycle and have already set up the terms, conditions, the specs around their specifications, and you may not be in a favorable position. So, but if you're on the front end of the buying cycle, such as the budgeting or the bidding phase, then you may be still in a favorable situation here. So one of the things I just want to make you cognizant of is that as you go through, as any of these become red flags to you, then that could be a decision for you to say no. All right, let's move on down into the process itself. In their purchasing process, do we know who the actual decision makers are? Okay, do we know all of them? Because if we don't, if they're hiding that from us, then we may not be in as favorable a position as you think you are. Do you have any champions or advocates in their company? If not, can you create one? There's a question on here that says, are we presenting our proposal or simply bidding? If you're simply submitting a bid, then you're in a commodity situation. Just understand that going into it, that you're in a commodity situation. If you get an opportunity to go explain or present your bid, then you're in a position of influence. So that's a favorable situation. Okay. And so I just want to make you aware that if you can, at the beginning of the process, ask the question, can we come and present or propose or explain our bid or proposal submission to you? Because you can pick up on some cues from your customer base in that discussion as to whether your bid is meeting their needs or their criteria, or are you on the same page? Do you understand their decision-making process? Because if you don't understand their decision-making process, then you're probably going to be out of it. Do you know their agendas? Yeah. If so, then what problem are they trying to solve? Then you can start to craft your message. You can start to craft your proposals and so forth around that. So I don't want to get too deep into the weeds here, but understanding the customer needs, their purchasing process is imperative. And so I just want to include that as part of the discussion here. All right, moving on down to the bottom of the form. Do we understand the competition? How many competitors are there? If we're going against 10 competitors, That may be a lot of people in the field. The field may be too heavy for us, and our chances of winning may become very dilutive. They may not. You may have a very favorable situation. You may have had a chance to get in on the front end and develop the specs around your product or around your solution, but understand how many and who you're going up against. Because you may be going up against a competitor that they're going to go in and lowball this thing, and that's their history, that's their way, that's their method of operating. And if that tends to be their criteria, and the client typically is going to base it simply on price, again, another red flag for you. And can we challenge the competitor's offerings? Do you have a better mousetrap or a better mechanism or a better delivery solution, or can you beat the schedule and improve your chances somehow with against your competition? Now we get down to what's called the opportunity capture percentages. And I do this for a reason, to help me to look at something on a macro level, not a micro level. So in other words, I asked these two questions. What is the chances out of 100% that this opportunity is actually going to proceed? That the client is actually going to proceed with this opportunity? And I assign a percentage on that, 75%, based on a feeling, or I even ask the question of the client, what's your probability of actually moving forward with this opportunity? So that I can get a feel for, okay, if they're telling me that, well, there's only a 20% chance this is actually going to go forward, I may not want to bid this. I may not want to propose it or give an estimate or a price on this, because there's a low likelihood that this is even going to go forward. All right. The get percentage is out of 100%. What are the chances that I will actually win this opportunity? And if you've got 4 competitors that you're going up against, if you're one of 5, then what you may consider is that you've got a 20% likelihood, 1 out of 5 of winning this opportunity. Now, if you take the overall value, we said this was a $50,000 value. All right. If you take the overall value and you multiply it times the go and the get percentage, if you take $50,000 and multiply it times 75% and then times 20%, the factored opportunity value of this opportunity is $7,500. So if you have a CRM or a mechanism in which you're tracking multiple opportunities, and you add all of those together, then you're in likelihood, if you look at this on a macro level, in all likelihood, if you add all those factored opportunities together, that's what your probable revenue stream might look like in the future. So if you've got 10 opportunities out there and they average about $7,500 on a factored level, then you might actually get about $75,000 worth of opportunity. That math tends to work out. And so once you go through this, it's a very simple 1-page document. Once you start to fill this out, take a look at those red notes and red flags, and make a decision based on that, whether to pursue it. And if you'll notice in this one, we said, no, we don't want to pursue this one. And the reason why is because we don't have the resources at the time. The start date does not meet our ability to be able to perform. And we don't bring any competitive advantages to the table here. So this is an easy decision for us not to waste our time or our resources on pursuing this opportunity. And you can go through this fairly quickly with the opportunities that you're doing. Once you've gone through 1 or 2, it actually gets pretty simple, and you can start to now have a repetitive, logical process that you can go through to determine, okay, this is something we want to pursue and put resources to bear on, or not. And if you get good enough at it, you can start to drive this down into your organization and start to get your if you have a VP of sales or a VP of operations or the people that are helping you to pursue these opportunities, you can start to get them involved in this decision making and teach them how to do this as well. And then, you know, periodically you get together and you review these to say, okay, these are the ones that we think we want to pursue. These are the opportunities that we don't want to pursue, and here's why. And you start to have some discussion around that. Now, you heard me mention earlier that this is a free template that it has calculations in it, and I've left it open as an open form for you. If you are a Chief Executive Board's member already, then you have access to this form. You just simply go into the form section under the member section of the website, of the CEBI website, and you go to the form section, and it looks like it's about the seventh one down, called the Business Opportunity Selection Analysis. If you just select that, you can download the form. If you're not a member of Chief Executive Boards and you don't have access to some of the private protected material, this is a form that we're offering to you. You can send us an email to info@chiefexecutiveboards.com, and we'll be happy to send this form to you. We want to make this available to you, and so that you can you can have access to it. Now, if you want to learn more about Chief Executive Boards, here's some information. Here's where you can go to learn more about our organization and some of the other tools and things that we have made available to our members out there. You can go to our website, or you can simply send an email to info@chiefexecutiveboards.com, or call our telephone number there that you see on the screen and just ask for Robin Taylor. Tell her you have an interest in learning more, and she'll ask you a couple of questions, see if it sounds like it's a good fit, and then possibly line up a call with me, and we can have further discussion about it. So, and then last but not least, you can go onto our website and you can download a free copy of this book, In Search of Balance. That'll give you a pretty good understanding of what it's like to participate in Chief Executive Boards. So anyway, at this point, I'll stop and just turn it over to Robin and see if we have any questions.
Kevin, we do have a few questions, and again, y'all can put them in the chat box if you have any additional ones. The first one, Kevin, I have is, what is the biggest mistake business leaders tend to make during a high growth era?
Yeah, the biggest mistake, and a lot of people don't even catch this. They don't even recognize it. I can't tell you how many times I have run into business owners who get too aggressive on chasing and pursuing opportunities. That's the biggest mistake that they make. And so what's happened is that they'll load up their backlog with dilutive customers or dilutive opportunities that is dilutive to their net margin, or it's dilutive, or they become pain in the rears type customers, and or it becomes very stressful to their business or their cash flow. So the biggest mistake I see is people get big wide eyes when we get in this kind of an atmosphere, and they start taking on too many opportunities too quickly. Okay. So that's the biggest mistake. They're not being selective in how they're approaching this.
Okay, Kevin, we have a few more that have come in. The first one is, can you send the equation for growth velocity you discussed?
Yeah, actually, I can. If you'll just send me an email, I'll be happy to send you the equation. Just send it to info@chiefexecutiveboards.com. And essentially, the way that I track it is it's your month over month, your sales velocity, your revenue velocity, increase month over month, that percentage. But I'll be happy to send you the formula for that.
And then we have another one, a lot of price increases going through now. Do you think they will be rolled back later when resources become more available again?
I do think that we will see an easing in some things, but I'm not sure. We're going to have to create an overabundance situation or an oversupply when that tends to happen. And I don't think we're going to see an oversupply in the near future. So I think we've got, maybe a year or year and a half or so before it starts to catch up and we start to see an oversupply in the marketplace out there. And that's when you tend to see a rollback in prices is when that occurs. So I think we've got, a good year probably where we're going to see that demand has or the supply has not caught up with demand yet. So we're going to see strong pricing and price increases over say the next year, and maintaining those strong prices. So that's what we're seeing right now. That tends to be the outlook.
Okay, that wraps up our questions, Kevin.
Okay. Well, listen, I want to thank you for joining us today. If you do have any other additional questions, I want to invite you to feel free to reach out to me anytime. You can call me at this number that you see on the screen, or you can just send an email to info@chiefexecutiveboards.com. And the reason why I want you to send it there is I want to make sure that it doesn't fall through the cracks. Just send me a quick question. I'm happy to jump on a call, or happy to help you through this situation. But if you want a copy of this template, feel free to go in and download it, or just reach out. We'll be happy to send you a copy of it. And if you want to talk through that, I'm happy to do that with you as well. Thank you for your time today, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you for allowing me to share this information with you. I hope that you found it helpful. And I hope that each of you have a great day ahead and a great week ahead. Talk to you later. Thank you.